Per usual, everyone, this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It is Wednesday. Let's take a look at some alts. Really not much to say because most of this is just preparation for the potential of the possibility of a move in Q4. So for me and my trading and my system, I don't like anything here in particular. BTC, alts, etc. Anything, not financial advice, but anything I'm buying here, if at all, is going to be light, size down, leverage zero, that sort of thing. Things to potentially look forward to would include BTC back above the cloud, bullish TK recross. We still have a cup and handle. We still have all the high time frame stuff. None of that has gone away. We just have not seen a move higher. We do have a pending, emphasis on pending, inverted head and shoulders. For me, and the way I trade these as a breakout, there is no action to be taken here. This is just mapping it out. What do we see? Is there anything? Bullish, bearish, otherwise. This is the best guess of what we may see. But we certainly have to get back to 117, 118 first. We certainly have to make a right shoulder. We do not want any lower lows below the right shoulder, and we certainly don't want any below the ultimate low here at 107. So as this is forming, you don't want any of that. And this is just BTC. Alts will be 2, 3, 4, 5x the move down for BTC. They have not seen, most of them, the move higher. So to be focused on alts here, to me, again, is silly if BTC isn't even bullish yet. At the very least, this needs to start to look all-time high retest ready before alts will pretend to do well, is my guess. And that's probably mid-caps. ETH and SOL we'll get to, but those could take a month. You know, we could be at this time in October 24th, we could be saying, oh, well, nothing to do here, right? We could be replaying this same setup for ETH, for SOL, but instead of into October, it would be into November. Perfectly possible. So if you're trading this for maximum gain, you're focused on the setups and not the coins themselves. If BTC looks like it's ready to go in a week, that's where the trade is. It doesn't mean to go focus on Fartcoin. That's not the focus. That's not where the market is. Now, Fartcoin may underperform, may overperform. I don't know. But my highest confidence, highest sizing, highest leverage is always going to be focused on the setup. For the multi-year pitchfork, we're still in it. No big deal here. We're still above the midpoint. There's probably a conversation to be had about a broader head and shoulders. Like if all this fails, there's something else to talk about. You can sort of see it here, right? With the neckline at 102 to 107, something like that. You know, that is cycle over talk. But that is not this day. That is if this current pattern fails and we don't see a higher high. So 122 is the yearly pivot. Keep pounding that table. Really nothing else to do here on BTC. We are not staying in line with global liquidity here in the green, which has continued to shoot up. BTC has not followed. There is a gap here. This is not what we've seen historically towards the end of the cycle. You know, usually end of cycle stuff is global liquidity going lower. In 2021, global liquidity did continue to go higher. BTC did not go with it, but alts did. So even alts here are not following global liquidity. Gold, however, it has gotten the memo and has done very, very well since the Jackson Hole speech. It looks a little hot up here, probably needs a period of consolidation. It has reached its log fib, log scale target. This is important for people who ask, you know, why do I use what I use? Don't take my word for it. Back test it, forward test it. If you don't like it, don't use it. But I use it because I think it works. So this was the target before the breakout. We're here, right? So I don't think there's a gold trade here either. I've been trimming gold and going into other stuff. Not altcoins, but other stuff. If we look at dominance, still just as bearish as it was a couple days ago. This is the 3-day. It's going to be slow. It's going to take time for all this to roll over. Maybe you get a head and shoulders here. You're not going to see that today or tomorrow or next week or the week after. This is going to be probably, again, into deep October, November territory. And historically, when Q4 does have a run for alts, that bleeds into January, February a little bit. So you sort of have to delay expectations, assuming BTC is bullish, right? But based on the cloud, it certainly doesn't look turbo bullish for BTC. Total 2 has retraced to the daily key June, which is initially the expectation for ETH, which never happened. For Sol, it did happen. We'll take a look at that. What's the setup or trade here? You buy the Kijun, stop loss at the cloud. In that case, it would be 1.5 trillion or whatever it is. Like the values don't matter, but it's the concepts and the idea here. Assuming this is still bullish, if you're still bullish. No obligation to buy anywhere at any time, obviously. But if you're reading this as a trade, that's how you'd read it on the cloud. And you certainly hope this is not a rising wedge or head and shoulders diagonally or anything like that. Total 2 over BTC, stripping out stables, also back above the cloud. Alts should outperform in Q4. It may take them a month to do that. It may take them 2 months. It may take them into 2026 to do that in a big, big way. And I think you have to be intelligent about allocating appropriately today for something that may or may not happen a month from now into 2-3 months from now, right? So the if this then that decision tree is still alive and well. What's amazing to me here is we still have Bitcoin miners outperforming the world. Total 2, ETH, IWM, total 3. And then there's coin at the very bottom of the barrel. If you want to take, here's a aggressive trade you could take. Short WGMI with calls or something, and then your long coin with calls. Short WGMI puts, long coin with calls. Assuming this closes. I mean, I would never take that trade. I'm not brave enough to take that trade, but there are people out there certainly who are very sure that coin is the next hood or whatever, and this is going to pull up. That's one way to trade this. I don't think that's for me, but there's an idea for you. I assume that WGMI is where it's at because of the AI HPC trade. Anything AI or quantum has done extremely well recently. That has been alt season. Alt season has been in pre-revenue AI, nuclear, quantum companies, and not altcoins. That's just where it's been. And you can see that on the chart here. These, for the most part, have a pretty tight correlation most of the time. ETH not quite getting the memo here. And then there's ETH BTC, which actually does have a bullish TK cross here. This may drag down all the way to the Kijun, and then into November, December, you get a second trade here, an edge to edge on the weekly into 2026. Something to watch for. I just don't think at this point there is an intelligent setup here on ETH BTC. On the daily, on the weekly. We'll look at ETH in a second. I don't think there's a trade there per se. We talk about this week to week. Again, if you're a multi-year trader, you have to assume that ETH is going to outperform. You have to assume that Sol is going to outperform. Otherwise, why are you trading that stuff at all on a multi-year basis? I'm not saying that's correct or my view. I'm just saying that's what your view has to be if you think this stuff is going higher. But if you're trading this just on the TA, you're waiting for ideally price to get closer to the Kijun with price in the cloud. So that again is going to take some weeks here. And here's the RGTI. You know, if you missed Oklo, RGTI, IREN, any of these, it's really good to go back and to paper trade them to see, okay, where would I enter? What would my size be? Where would I add? It sounds silly. However, it's good practice for alts. If you think alts are going to run, what do you want alts to look like? What do you want to recognize? You know, if you're not live trading this, one thing you do is say, okay, at the very least, I can figure out what to look for next time. And I don't see a trade on RGTI up here either. You know, it's funny, even in this speculative stuff, most of the leaders have reached their targets, and now you're seeing the laggards in that sector try to catch up. So we'll see if that happens. But in alts specifically, not too much going on here. ETH still in this huge descending broadening wedge. And you could say, okay, I'm bullish on this. This could hold. This could go to 8. That's the long-term view. The near-term view is the daily is nothing other than a potential Kijun bounce. And you are really, really hoping that this is not any sort of head and shoulders. And even if it is, it doesn't really measure too far. So the target isn't a big deal. It's more of a trend issue because that means the trend is not bullish anymore. You go from bullish to neutral, you're back in the broadening wedge. I still think into October, November, you're going to see some squirreling around in here. And then into November, you're going to see this stuff again. You're going to see price back above the cloud. That is what you want to look for, in my opinion, for a trade, if you're not just trading the Kijun. because I see nothing here. There's nothing at all on the technicals that say, man, this is a great trade other than the Kijun bounce. I actually like the Solana Kijun bounce better because it went parabolic, crashed all the way back down, and thus far has bounced with the daily Dragonfly. It hasn't sort of sat at a level like ETH has for a couple months, I guess a couple weeks, not months, but there appears to be plenty of selling here. If you get selling in a rally, you always want it to happen quickly, make people just panic, sell. What does the volume look like on this? It's probably high if I had to guess. High-ish. You want to wash out the leverage, wash out the tourists, right? Get the true believers in there, holding on the bounce. And if we look at Sol ETH, not really much of anything. Maybe an eventual inverted head and shoulders or something into October. But again, like what is there to do today or yesterday or tomorrow? I don't personally see anything. Sol BTC pulling back a lot as well. What's the setup here? I got nothing. I just don't have anything. I got nothing to say. Ripple still ranging. Nothing to do here until you get a higher high. Then I like it, say, ranging. I like it at a higher high. And I know I'm going to get this comment like, oh, all you do is look at these old coins, their last cycle, blah, blah, blah. If none of these on my list are moving or looking like they're moving, then we got a problem broadly, which we do. There's just nothing to do. You know, there's some stuff maybe on the edges that looks interesting, but this is a pretty good smattering of stuff. It is interesting that you have a huge descending volume profile here on say. Is there anything? I mean, you could say, well, maybe this is a ascending triangle. Maybe. When you get these multiple possibilities, it gets pretty murky. You know, back here, it was pretty straightforward what this was. When you get this bullish and bearish pattern, it's kind of just back to a coin flip. But the volume profile is very interesting there. H-bar, same deal as Ripple, needs a higher high. Really nothing to say. Curve had a pretty good looking falling wedge. Still does, honestly. You'll find that because this is leveraged in retail and DeFi and all sorts of fun stuff, these patterns will persist and just grind you out. Grind you out longer than you even thought was possible, and then may eventually bounce. That's why, in my opinion, it's just better to do nothing and wait. And this is the risk reward here. You could say, okay, at any point, it's the bottom, it's the bottom, it's the bottom, stop loss at the bottom. Okay, well, that got hit like 50 times now, but the current bottom could be the bottom. We could say, okay, new bottom, 64 cents. That's my stop loss. We're pretty close to breaking this. The upside is 130%, you know, and then it's a sizing question. It's a leverage question. Would I feel comfortable sizing this up with leverage today? Absolutely not. We say stop loss, I don't know, something like that. Entries about there. There's your risk reward. 13.5, right? And this goes back to like a portfolio wide question. If your portfolio is full of memes, would I want to hit for the fences on curve? No. If I'm sitting in T-bills and I'm looking for something interesting to do with a decent risk reward profile, maybe this is something I do. If I'm sitting in gold and I don't know, just nonsense, right? Like zero volatility stuff, then yeah, maybe I like curve here as an idea. But if I'm already loaded up on every meme coin possible, probably not the trade for you. But again, that's a personal decision. LTC also has its head and shoulders possibility. But again, if you're trading this, you're probably zoomed way out, just waiting to see if this is going to happen to the upside. But a trade entry for me wouldn't be until 120 on Litecoin. Link, similar to ETH. Bearish TK cross soon. Price in the cloud soon. Head and shoulders type fractal up there. It just doesn't look like the handle on this wants to hold. So again, like what is there to do here today? Sorry, nothing. This is why it's so important. You know, IMX is a good example, or even AVAX. It's important to know for your system, you know, we're just talking about one system, but for your system, where to take action, where to start to add, where to open, where to set alerts, etc. Because probably that happens pretty infrequently. Probably happens not multiple times a day, but once a quarter, I'd imagine. Once a month, I'd imagine. But it certainly doesn't happen every day. You're not running across these amazing setups every day. And once they've happened, they've happened. You don't have a time machine, right? So you have to be prepared for that sort of thing. Algo, similar to Curve, maybe this is a falling wedge. Really nothing to do there in my opinion at the moment. ENA double tapped the target that was the target from July, and certainly doesn't look great here. Bearish TK cross soon, pricing cloud, double top, M, whatever. This doesn't look good. Not bullish. Doesn't look like continuation. We'll need a full reset probably over the course of the next couple of weeks. Aave, definitely one of the better looking setups that didn't go anywhere. Never made a higher high, continuously made lower lows, and now it's sitting at the bottom of the cloud. This could recover. This could go back up to 328. I just don't think that at this point, for me, if I was sitting in this for 3 months or whatever, I'd be adding more down here. This looks like it's rolling over from neutral to bearish. Now that could change next week, and that's why we look at this stuff every week. But as we sit here today, doesn't look great. The setup was there. It just never happened. Never broke out. Here's hype. A lot of people very hyped up on the hype. Then you had a key opinion leader sell. Good old Arthur. And away she went. This has up chopped you for months. If you're trading this, you probably like some fundamental case of something exchange related. Again, I don't have a trade here. I've got nothing for you as an idea. It's not generally what I like trading. An upward range is pretty brutal to sit through. AMX broke out, target nearly hit. Nothing to do at this point. What is there to do on any of this that looks like this stuff? Sol, ETH. You can just DCA, say, okay, I'm gonna DCA and see what happens into the end of the year. But I don't like mega leverage on any of this stuff. ADA doesn't really look like it wants to go anywhere today either. Just kind of sitting there, ranging, really nothing to say. ARB had a great setup. It had a great fake out breakout a few times and didn't go anywhere yet. Broke down again. For any of these, I like revisiting them at the highs. So at 50 cents, how do they look? Nothing there at the moment for me. OP, same deal, broke down. Really nothing to say there. IMX, one of the few that's actually holding on to some of its strength for whatever reason. Looks better than most, but again, is there a setup here today? I don't know. I don't really see anything. Near bouncing off of support, that's pretty good. Bouncing off of breakout level above the cloud. I don't hate it as a setup. Wormhole, kind of the same as IMX, holding above breakout level. I don't hate it. Matic broke down. Like it a lot less. DYDX still in the range. Okay. I like it better at highs. I like it better breaking up a little bit. Some of these do have a pretty ugly low time frame. This thing, whatever. But again, you want higher highs first. You either want higher highs first or some crazy stupid low with a chart pattern. Other than that, right now, I just don't think there's much to do anywhere. Dot, same deal. Nothing to do. We'll just flip through the rest of these. Flow below, GRG below, Ondo in. I guess we can move Ondo back up here. Sui, similar to Aave, just not yet. You can start to see some sort of maybe inverted head and shoulders here, similar to BTC. 379, 4, 410. It's not great to see this pattern just basically expire, right? But I don't like this here. It's back in the range. Pith back in the range. Ton broke down. Apt still waiting. Filecoin waiting. ICP below. Velo below. FET below. STX below. Rune, no. Tia, definitely not. Crow gave it most of that back. Maker below. So what is there to do here? I don't know. Near looks okay. Sol looks okay on the Kijun. All the meme coins look like trash to me for the most part. These could be plus or minus 25% on any given day, but as we sit here now, I don't really see anything. Let's check this one. Yeah, I mean, really nothing to say. It kind of speaks for itself. Has not held highs, has given up everything quicker than it has recovered. That is not bullish. Real quick, we'll talk about DATs because maybe there's some more interesting stuff here. Interesting that MSTR is down an equal amount at BTC's up today. This chart still looks like trash to me. I like this above the cloud and not a moment before. I like this as a potential momentum play from 400 to 600 to 800. Not here. That's not why you're here, folks. Sorry. Are you here to sit in MSTR for 8 months and wait. You know, it's like RGTI. Are you really in here to trade this and hold this from January to July? No, of course not. You're here in August, September for this, right? And MSTR is the same. Anybody telling you otherwise is lying, okay? That's why they're here. I will say on the low time frames, on the 4 hour, just like BTC spot, there is something trying to happen head and shoulders wise, inverted down here. But again, what do you want to see? The same thing you always want to see, higher high. You're not getting that yet. So 350 would be the level that I would maybe start to think about doing anything, but that's still below the cloud. It's at least in the cloud at that point. But what is there to do here? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Maybe you get a bullish TK cross pricing cloud, probably October, November, like deeper October, November. First we need BTC to turn around, and then ideally this starts to wake up, but it's just living at a multi-month low. Not something I generally like trading. Look through the rest of these quickly. Most of these look absolutely atrocious. Here's Metaplanet, again with log fibs, log scale, etc. Chart pattern, etc. What is there to do here? Nothing. I got nothing for you. 4 hour daily, zero amount of strength here. Just a huge downtrend after the high. Naka back to lows. Really looks bad today, down 6.8. SIPO has kind of done nothing. Maybe something on the 4 hour there. It's tough because I don't know what really is going on with this one, but super low volume, as you can see with the empty candles there. But maybe something's starting to happen. SMLR supposedly got acquired for like 90 something. I'm not seeing that on the chart. That's for sure. A few people have asked me about this one. The train has left the station by the looks of it. It's already doubled in like a month. BMNR before people rage comment at me below the cloud. So there just isn't anything that I can see. Now I don't see everything. I'm not looking at all 10,000 coins here, but again, we have a pretty good idea of some of this stuff, and it's all down. It's just all down. Really nothing to say here on the Sui Dat, Litecoin Dat, Sol Dat, ETH Dat, Doge Dat, up 20% today randomly. Sure. BNB Dat, ugly. Fat Dat, nothing. Tron Dat, just down for weeks, months down. You know, like, yeah, there's just nothing here. There really isn't. Tau Dat, Ton Dat. Maybe something to watch for there. I'll send an alert for myself just in case, but you know, maybe something like this. Hype Dat, giving it all back. Hype D, a lot of people asking about that one recently. Does have an interesting deep inverted head and shoulders here. So like everything we've talked about, higher highs. Till then, so long, farewell, till we meet again. That's all over this one. Give me a like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.